That's it. The snake charmers of Marrakesh and the horn melody of the Cairo traffic have finally convinced you to start studying Arabic. And you're now wondering whether you should go for modern standard Arabic or any of the main dialects. Iraqi, Levantine, Maghribi? This is a good question. But another one might be more interesting. Why don't Arabs speak MSA in the first place? When asking this question to the most enlightened, the answer may still leave you pondering. Okay, it's not spoken, but why? Or maybe we should ask the question slightly differently. Was MSA ever spoken? For the sake of simplification, this video will use the term MSA to refer to any form of the language that does not fall under the dialect category. This means MSA is the standardized, formal variety of the Arabic language as much as classical Arabic is, without making a significant difference between the two. The linguistic map of the Arab world is extremely diverse. Despite being labeled Arabic-speaking countries, not all Arabic dialects spoken in the region are mutually intelligible. If an Iraqi travels all the way to Morocco and starts speaking their native tongue, the Moroccan in front of them may open bewildered eyes, pondering what it is that they may be trying to say. This becomes even more complicated if the Iraqi ends up in a small village of the Atlas Mountains, meeting a 70-something lady who does not even know Darija, i.e. the sweet name of the Moroccan dialect. Depending on the linguist you talk to, Arabic dialects can be divided into a variety of subcategories, such as Egyptian Sudanese, Levantine, Maghribi, Mesopotamian, and Peninsula. Even though the dialects that belong to one category are regarded as mutually intelligible, it is not always true. A Tunisian may struggle to understand a Moroccan, and a Saudi from the eastern province may find more similarities with the Iraqi dialect than the dialect spoken in Jeddah. Needless to say, this is a gigantic mess that is sometimes difficult to untangle. If you've been studying Arabic for some time and ever traveled to the region, you may already know that MSA speakers are often met with ironic amusement or outright laughter, depending on the diplomatic savoir-faire of your interlocutor. With the Arab conquests of the 7th and 8th centuries, the area where Arabic is spoken considerably expanded, encompassing a variety of cultures and languages. Considering Arabic was not indigenous to these lands, it will graft itself onto existing linguistic layers such as Greek, Latin, Coptic, and a myriad of Berber languages, and from then on be considerably influenced by these original languages, leading to the many varieties of Arabic we know today. But were the original natives to the Arabic language ever speakers of the standard form of the language? Before answering this question, let's make a little detour. Are languages ever spoken as they are written? In other words, are there any other examples of languages that, like Arabic, are not spoken in the standard form? Arguably, in any language there is, at least to some extent, some difference between the spoken and written language. For instance, French is the only Romance language with double negation, ne pas. However, while it is usually retained in writing, people mostly omit it in oral speech. There are also many differences across regions in terms of lexicon and accents. The colorful accents found in many cities in southern France derive from the influence of the Provençal language, or Occitan, also spoken in Italy and Spain at the time. This dialect was spoken in the region before Standard French was imposed throughout the country, notably through the enforcement of the Jules Ferry laws, which banned the use of dialects in all schools in the 19th century. For the nation-state, language standardization has always been a major domination tool. And even though a Belgian and a French can perfectly understand each other, they may struggle to understand Quebec French, French, especially if their interlocutor uses a specific lexicon that renders their speech almost unintelligible. China is also home to a few dozen different Chinese dialects, and even though the Chinese government tends to impose the use of Putonghua for standardization purposes, not all dialects are mutually intelligible to the average Chinese. Putonghua being a recent construct, many Chinese would learn it as a second dialect of Chinese, a bit like Arabic speakers would do with MSA. The main difference being, of course, that MSA is not intended to become a spoken language. In the case of Arabic, we have some form of spoken speech that spread throughout the Middle East and North Africa, mingled with other linguistic substrates over centuries to produce very specific and alternate forms of Arabic. They, in turn, evolved even further through the influence of additional superstrates, notably during colonization. Furthermore, at the time, access to education and thus to reading and writing was not as widespread as it is today. This means even fewer people may have known the standard language outside of liturgical practice. So, was Arabic in its standardized form ever spoken? Even though it is arguably easier to learn a language that is formally standardized, both in writing and speaking, the idea that Arabic was uniformly spoken the same way everywhere at some point in time is a myth. Arabic dialects have always coexisted, albeit their differences may have been less striking then than they are now for the reasons exposed earlier. It is likely differences existed even during the time of the Prophet of Islam, differences that were even reflected in small variations in the reading of the Quran. Since it was mainly an oral culture, these differences may never have been recorded in writing. When a single linguistic canon was imposed, notably with the development of the dots and the vowels, or harakat, and when this version of Arabic was also imposed as the language of administration, it is unlikely the Arabian tribes that had been speaking the dialects for hundreds of years would suddenly decide to embrace another version and to drop their heritage altogether. The existence of linguistic differences among Arabs is evidenced by Sibawayh, a Persian author regarded as the father of Arabic grammar. In his book, referred to as Al-Kitab, the book, he mentions linguistic differences, notably in pronunciation and use of inflections such as Arab or declensions, some being attributed to the necessity of poetry and its rules. If we admit the conception that the Arabic language was spoken and, under certain circumstances like liturgy or commerce, put into writing even before Islam, on a territory that went from Yemen to modern-day Syria, this means a territory as large as 1/3 of Europe as a continent, we can hardly envisage that the language was spoken without any pronunciation or lexical variations, and the absence of linguistic diversity on large territories is a phenomenon that is nowhere to be found, even in countries as small as France or Japan. We can also argue that over time, languages, whatever they are, tend to simplify. When we compared classical Latin to modern Romance languages, or even modern English to Anglo-Saxon or older Germanic languages, there appears to be a discernible trend of languages becoming simpler. Such simplifications are also observed in writing systems, of course. For instance, China and Japan have greatly simplified their characters, while Korea and Vietnam got rid of them altogether. In spoken language, this tendency to simplify is often referred to as linguistic reduction, defined as the process of simplifying or omitting sounds, syllables, or even entire words during spoken communication. It is a natural tendency in many languages, occurring more frequently in informal or casual settings. The simplification will inevitably also impact certain word inflections, such as declension or conjugation. This phenomenon is also observed in Arabic, of course, and if we assume all languages tend to greatly simplify over time, it is unlikely Arabic would have been magically spared. These differences, as they occurred spontaneously in already diverse linguistic variations, may have been even more accentuated over the past centuries, receiving not only the influences of the substrates, but also being subject to the influence of the most recent superstrates, such as French, English, or Spanish. Finally, the reluctance to speak Standard Arabic among natives may also be due to an overestimation of the difficulty of the Arabic language in its written form, as well as the general atmosphere of mockery surrounding this form of the language. Arabs often justify their lack of mastery of the standard form of the language by arguing this linguistic form has a far too poetic lexicon and far too intricate grammar. However, after more than 10 years of Arabic study, I find the lexicon of the language, though very rich, not esoteric enough to make me not want to speak it. As for the alleged intricacies of its grammar, though difficult, it may not be regarded as complex as the unfathomable conjugations and declensions of many Slavic languages. This may suggest their vision of the language has been shaped by many dramas and TV shows that mock the speakers of the standard language, imprinting in their minds the image of a language that attracts laughs and suspicions of pretentiousness. All in all, the fact that Standard Arabic is regarded as a language with no native speakers may be a little far-fetched. Arabic as a language developed and expanded on an extremely vast territory, spanning a few million square kilometers. In this context, it is unlikely the language did not know any differences in lexicon, accent, or pronunciation, even before the advent of Islam. When Islam spread beyond its original territory, Arabic occupied lands where other languages were already spoken. Arabic dialects evolved independently, diverging significantly due to interactions with the languages spoken in the conquered territories, and drifting even further from the variants that were originally found in the peninsula and its surroundings. Finally, the process of simplification in grammar, lexicon, and even writing exists in every language and tends to even accelerate with the development of modern technology and the lesser importance given to reading by the younger generations. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.